scheduled surprise live stream because I cannot be bothered to schedule them. So let me get the chat up while we're waiting for some folks to get here. And then I will tell you our topic this evening. All right, chat is up. Hey, we got a like. Hey, Ryan. Well, I hope I've got this right. Glad to see you, Brian, and whoever else is here. Uh-oh. Phone's not charging. Might be a short live stream. We'll see. Hey, Tim. Shalom, Landon. Long 2 days at the gun stores. But that's like, fishing. You'd rather have a bad day fishing than a good day doing a lot of other things. 2 long days at the gun store, Oh, man, I just don't know. Hopefully this thing is charging. I don't know if it is or not. All right, so our topic this evening. I meant to look up this this article and get it into the chat, into the link into the chat. I read it the other day. I've already lost it. I read it the other day. There is a looming attack. Hey, Isaac. Oh, YouTube's been super censorship lately, huh? I don't know how that's any different than normal, but thanks for the heads up. So I was reading, and I can't remember where I read this. That's why I didn't go look it up and put the link in the description. Hey, Patrick. Montreal. We got one of our frozen chosen brethren in the house. So I can't remember where I read this article. It might have been on Zero Hedge. That's where I read most of my articles at, but there's a few other sites I check as well, and it could have been on one of those. But the article was all about how homegrown food produces 4 times as much carbon emissions, or 4 times as much greenhouse gas emissions as commercially grown food. Oh, Doug and Stacy already did it. Well, go figure. Son bitch. But I mean, I should have known someone else had done it already. And it's not like Doug and Stacy aren't a great channel. Following Doug and Stacy. I did not see this on Doug and Stacy, though. I actually saw the article. And as soon as I saw the headline, I went, oh no, here we go. Here it comes. And I thought, now my first response was, oh yikes. Oh, I got a great t-shirt on. I don't know if y'all can, oh, the beard's in the way. I don't know if y'all can read that or not. Ungovernable. Keith sent it to me. I don't know where Keith got it. He ordered it from somewhere. But, hey, Anti-At Jack. But as soon as I said it, I went, oh, no, this is only my OnlyFans, Isaac. As soon as I saw it, I went, oh, there we go. How did I not see this coming? Because I'll be honest with you, I did not see it coming. Now, there's a flip side to this. And we'll talk about the positive aspect of this, too, because there is a silver lining in this cloud. But the article was all about how small gardens and read homesteaders produce 4 times as much greenhouse gas emissions as large commercial farms, allegedly. Now, who the hell knows how they come up with these numbers? I mean, that's an insane. Hey, Rob, how you doing, sir? That's an insane statement for anyone to make. You know, how could they possibly know? Every small gardener does everything completely different. It's just ludicrous, and it doesn't take into to consideration what your gardener's doing instead of what he would be doing instead of gardening. Well, that's yeah. That hey Wes, exactly, Landon. Uh, so obviously, your garden in your yard is not environmentally destructive, and there is no way in hell, there is no way in hell that even if it were environmentally destructive, which it is not, that it would be less or more, for, let alone 4 times more environmentally destructive than a large commercial farm. Don't have anything against large commercial farms. Being able to produce large amounts of cheap food is a great blessing. I think there's some problems with how they do it. It could be handled better, but dear God, it being able to have large amounts of affordable food is a blessing we have not had often in our history, and we should not overlook it. So I am not criticizing large scale farmers, but they use massive amounts of chemicals and fertilizer. Massive amounts of chemicals and fertilizers. There is no way me running a tiller a few hours a week, even if my little Troy built Super Bronco tiller somehow this is so insane. Uh, Somehow produces more greenhouse gas emissions than a giant combine. And I know I'm being a little obtuse because they're doing it by, you know, like tonnage produced. You know, that giant combine is a miracle of modern technology and a miracle. I mean, you see those things, they they run them down the field and they pretty much spit out a finished product. It's all canned, you know. Uh, so the claim is that for the amount of food produced, you're going to allegedly produce 4 times as much greenhouse gases in your small garden as you would a commercial farmer would. Now, utter bullshit. Hey, Palmetto Paratrooper, how you doing, sir? Utter bullshit. Total lie. No, no possible way. No possible way to even figure that out. Here's here's the what Patrick say. They don't calculate the carbon footprint caused after the produce is grown. Oh, interesting observation, Patrick. Yeah, that's a really good point. The freight to market isn't factored into the report. That completely shows how biased they are. Yeah, and then once they get it to the grocery store, you know, it's got to be packaged, it's got to be canned, it's got to be refrigerated. You're exactly right. Just producing it is only a portion of the energy inputs into the food. That's a brilliant point, Patrick. Uh, but anywho, yeah, Wes, my garden doesn't make carbon. It makes vegetables. What kind of asshole thinks what kind of asshole would grow carbon in his garden? Uh, uh, here's everything. When I heard this one fact, I mean, I already didn't believe this horse shit, but when I heard this one, let's call it an anecdote. Uh, Modern science does not even know how big our atmosphere is. They do not know how much. They do not know what the volume of the air in our atmosphere is. It's too big of a number to calculate. So it's impossible for them to actually know how greenhouse gas would affect it because they don't know how much regular air is up there to get some proportion of what the it's just the biggest bullshit lie in the history of the world. I don't have to. All of you know that this is a bullshit lie. No one has to tell you all this. Uh, oh man, no. Uh, but on top of all that, I mean, just set aside the fact that this is okay. Oh, I'm not going to get it. Anthropogenic global warming. This is global man-made global warming, AGW they call it. Uh, I'm all obsessed with feminism right now, but I used to be all obsessed with global warming, and I spend a lot of time listening to it and paying attention to it. So son of a bitch, anthropogenic or anthropogenic, I can't remember which. Global warming is global warming allegedly caused by people, uh, and it is a bullshit lie. Like it is the biggest load of shit to ever be found. I can't think. Anthropogenic. Thank you, Chuck Norris. Anthropogenic. That is the hardest thing for me to say. Yeah, it is. I keep wanting to put an R in there around the po. I guess, when you as po as I am, you want to give yourself airs and pronounce it poor. But utter horseshit. But even if you wanted to accept Winnie the Pooh, hey, Lance Corporal veteran, even if you wanted to accept that anthropogenic global warming was a thing, the idea that shutting down home gardens is the solution to anthropogenic global warming is just insanity. I mean, utter insanity. You know it's insanity. They know it's insanity. It is not about global warming. What's it all about? You're all together now. It's about killing you, taxing you, controlling you. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you will eat the bugs and you will own nothing and you will be happy. And if you're growing your own food, and it is not easy to grow enough food to make a dent in your diet. It's caused by meth labs because they always cooking and they're always exploding and burning. It's not easy to make enough food to make a dent in your diet, but you can. And you can actually do it. I shouldn't say it's not easy. It's not impossible. What's the right word here? It's not hard. It's not hard, which would mean it is easy. But it takes some. So, anyway, it's doable. Anyone can produce enough food to make a dent in their diet. And the more food you can produce, the less they can control you, the less they can tax you, the harder it is for them to kill you, the less likely you are to eat their bugs. And they want to control the food supply. You can't deny it at this point. All you have to remember is that Bill Gates and the Chinese Communist Party are in a bitter competition to see who can buy more American farmland. Why do these two entities want to own all the American farmland? Because they want to starve the American people. Or they, at bare minimum, want to control the food supply, because if they control the food supply, hungry people will do anything you ask of them. You just have to look at the Bible. When Joseph took over Egypt and he stored up all the grain for 7 years, the people came to him, and 2 years in, they had sold everything they owned, and then they enslaved themselves. They sold themselves. It's right there in the Bible. They come to Joseph and they say, what's the point of us starving? We're going to sell ourselves to you as slaves. You will own us. Give us food. And they sold themselves to Joseph for food. People, my father used to be a preacher. When he'd preach, he would say, "Sweet people of God." And you knew that was where he was going to deliver his, sweet people of God, listen to me. Nothing has changed in the 5,000 years, I think it is, since Joseph. People are no different. Our rulers are no different. We will sell our souls for food. Maybe not everyone. There'll always be some holdouts. But hungry people do stupid things. Hungry people do stupid things. And you know what? They're not even stupid when you're hungry. Because when you're hungry, it's not stupid. Well, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. When your babies are starving, when their little bellies are extended, when they look like a UNICEF commercial from the 1980s, uh, and not hungry people do stupid things, you will do what it takes to feed them. Now, not everyone. There's always going to be people who will live or die on principle, and I admire those people, and I hope I'm one of them. But if they can legislate away your garden, that puts them one step closer to you having to do whatever they want for you to get food. So how are they going to do it? Well, they've already got the template running in California. California has outlawed the internal combustion engine on all, oh, totally. You, I think it's 2025, but it might be 2030. But by some year coming up pretty quick, you will not be able to sell a piece of equipment and eat the bugs. You will not be able to sell a piece of equipment with an internal combustion motor on it. That's lawnmowers, that's tillers, that's chainsaws, weed eaters, tractors, any of it. Backhoes, skid steers. Uh, we do a big garden every year. Most of you guys have seen it. It requires internal combustion engines. You can, it's not that you can't, you can. It is very, very hard to do a big garden without internal combustion engines. We haven't done it yet. It's hard to do with internal combustion engines. I can't imagine what it would be like without. Uh, we have a tiller, a little Troy built tiller. We have my Graveleys that occasionally run. How much gas do I use in the tiller annually? A couple gallons. Not five, probably five, maybe not quite five. Uh, Now, when the Graveleys run, and the Graveleys don't have a great fuel usage, uh, so they probably do more. But that little Troy built tiller is pretty good on gas. Uh, so so they've already started doing that in California, and they know they're going to push it elsewhere. You're not going to be able to buy tillers. You're not going to be able to buy weed eaters and chainsaws and you know all this stuff that makes our lives easier. Uh, and by the way, no gas chainsaw, not gas powered chainsaw is difficult on a homestead if you heat with wood like we do. The electric chainsaws, they're just not there yet. They're close. They're getting good. No, they're getting good. Uh, as far as I'm concerned, the problem with them is the charge time on the batteries. Wes's tiller drinks a half gallon an hour. We don't. We weren't talking about how much you drink while you're tilling, Wes. Uh, yeah, crosscut saws though. Poof, that's a lot of work. Anyway, but what else could they do? Obviously, they can probably regulate the seed industry out of business. Already, like seeds in. I bought a big sucker. Uh, you just asking me to insult you now, Wes. Uh, Already, the seed industry is pretty well. The seed and the the plant industry is fairly consolidated. Now, there are a lot of small seed companies out there, uh, but it wouldn't be hard for the government to get control of them. And obviously, vast swaths of people just buy their burpee plants, and uh, it would be pretty easy to tax them out of business, to regulate them. Uh, there's the other tools we need: hose, uh, like turning forks, all the little hand tools and everything. that I think would kind of be hard in the long run to. But if you can't get seeds, and it's too much work because you can't have a tiller, or you can't get a tractor, uh, or you can't hire someone with a tractor to come, plow up your spot every year. That used to be a thing. Hello, Clifford. How you doing? Ontario. We got another Canuck in the house. We got someone from Montreal here too, Clifford. Uh, uh, lots of people then at that point will just say, "Well, it's too hard." Uh, a hoe is easy to make. Leaf spring, heat in a fire, bend to shape, handle done. Boom. But don't handle it while it's hot because that'll burn you. Uh, but they can make now. But now here's the. Okay, so that's how they could do it. Here's here's the silver lining in all of this, though. Why are they worried about it? Why are they talking about this? Is it really that big of a threat? And the answer must be yes. It must be yes. If there's now this is early this is the early stage of this thing too. They're just now starting to talk about it. They're just now starting to say that, and I wonder how much of this is just urban elites trying to justify their stupid existence. Uh, you know, there really is an urban rural divide, and I have been shocked how much, and it's these white urban hipsters, they hate rural people. I deal with them a fair amount in my job. My job has me in and around Atlanta, in and out and around Atlanta, uh, dealing with these idiots with their skinny jeans. A woman was questioned why she sold. A woman was questioned why she sold donated water pumps to poor farmers. She said they were more likely to sell it if free, but more likely to use it if bought. I think that's true with almost anything. Uh, oh yeah, Patrick E. Patrick E. is from Montreal. Clifford, meet Patrick E. Patrick E. meet Clifford. Uh, where was I? So I don't know how much of this is just these stupid white hipsters, urban hipsters, these millennial assholes who are I mean, they have to. They're not able to function if they are not convinced in their own mind that they are the moral, kind, caring, empathetic people. Uh, and if they're not convinced that they're right, if there's any doubt thrown on that delusion in their minds that they're the good, nice, caring, empathetic people, they just melt down. They just collapse. They can't handle it. And you could not tell one of these people that you live a more environmentally uh, responsible life than they do. They'll just collapse. Their whole worldview is built around them being the nice people. They're the ones on the right side of history. Uh, and if you point out to them that their lifestyles are filthy and completely dependent on extracting and transporting resources from rural areas to their urban hellholes, they just they freak out. So this could just be that. This could just be some urban elites are like, well, we're better than those rural people. They have gardens and gardens pollute. Fortunately, IPA breweries in the middle of cities don't pollute at all. No, there's no energy inputs into my favorite IPA bar. IPAs suck, and people who drink IPAs should be horsewhipped. You know what? I'll say this though, Isaac. I'll give the millennials this. I bought this house I'm sitting in right now 12 years ago for $30,000. It is now worth somewhere around 150 to 160. You leave my IPAs alone. Your IPAs suck, Palmetto. They are awful. and pointless. I had a dragon's milk. I don't have any. We're not a bearded tonight. Uh, I went up to Camp Lejeune Friday. One of my daughters had a little minor emergency and she needed some help. And she lives outside of Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, which was where I was stationed when I was in the Marine Corps, 25 years ago now. And so I ran up there. First time I'd been back since October 1st, 1999. Oh, I've drank so much of that water, Isaac. Uh, yeah. Oh no, there's people who like your beer, Palmetto, but they're all just raging homosexuals, and they want to share more than your beer. They want to share your sleeping bag too. Uh, that explains some things. And we went out to an Irish pub while we were up there, and they had dragon's milk. And if you like beer and you've never had dragon's milk, you are missing out. Ah! I hope it's not flavored. I allegedly refuse to drink flavored beer, but if it is flavored, it's well flavored. That's some good stuff. That is some good stuff. Dragon's milk, look it up. It's a stout. Shalom, Jesse Walnuts. Wellnuts. Jeez, sorry. My eyes are going. But it's 11% alcohol. I had two of them for lunch. I was in a nice place. I was in a nice place. Uh, Anywho, let me say this about IPAs. How do you milk a dragon? Carefully, very, very carefully. Uh, I'd rather have flavored malt liquor, i.e., Mike's Hard Lemonade. I like Mike's Hard Lemonade. It's good stuff. But if I have to choose between an IPA and Mike's Hard Lemonade or Zima, y'all remember Zima? I would rather have Zima than an IPA because it's at least being honest about what IPAs are. Ugh. I love White Claw. Actually, no, I really like. I'll be honest and say Zimas taste good. They're lemonade with alcohol in them. What's not to like? I do not like the taste of the White Claws. They taste bad. IPA gives me gas. Uh, they give Palmetto Paratrooper a zing. You should see Palmetto when he drinks a IPA. He goes. He loves them. Anywho, where was I? Oh, I don't remember where I was. Oh, there must be a reason why they're scared. Why is it that they think that they have to try to regulate these small gardens? Because they must be effective. You know what? It must be a way to thwart their plans. I really do. uh, if they are already setting up, Les Jones is here. How you doing, Les? Y'all getting that? I think I read y'all were supposed to get another atmospheric river out there this week. Is IPA like LGBT? Yeah, it's one of those acronyms in there, buddy. Uh, I love me a good bitter IPA once in a while. Y'all got it, huh? I think it's moving east now. I don't like bitter things. Just went through 2 months of rain and my garden is on a hillside and it's overgrown. I need to weed it to save my garlic and peas. I am not going to enjoy the mud. I hope I don't fall down. I hope you don't fall down too, sir. Uh, if they're already setting this up, if they're already going out of their way to start laying the groundwork for regulating waste gardens, then that must be an effective way to thwart their goals. You watch your slanderous mouth. Gardening must be revolutionary. It must be countercultural. It must work. Because if it didn't work, they wouldn't be trying to get rid of it. Now, who knows how widespread this is going to get? You know, we always talk about, uh, we always talk about they, Lisa Garden Diggett. You know, and we always ascribe, godlike powers to they. They are infallible and they are inexorable and they have a plan and really they're idiots. You know, I've been on UN missions before and they were some of the most poorly run, ridiculous things imaginable. Stupid, stupid, stupid people. So I mean, it's not like because suddenly they recognize our gardens are a threat, they're going to figure out a way to undermine our gardens. Uh, like somebody was talking about fear mongering here earlier. We don't want to do the fear porn thing. I mean, it's fun. I enjoy a good conspiracy theory as much as anyone. Uh, uh, but these people are not omnipotent. They are not omniscient. You know, just because they snap their fingers, their will is not creative. You know, the way God's is. God says, "Let there be light," and there's light. Uh, yeah, if every family had a garden and some chickens, uh, you don't have to produce all of your food in order to make an incredible dent in your food. Uh, Now, there are ways to feed your chickens without having to go off the homestead, uh, but I'm sleepy. Sorry. Oh, this trip yesterday. I left about 5 in the morning and drove 7 hours up to Camp Lejeune. Helped my daughter. Turned around, drove 7 hours home, and I'm not okay. It kicked my ass. I'm getting old. Uh, but chickens are are much easier to do if you're slightly grid dependent. Uh, I grow some of the feed for my cow, Isaac. Shalom, Genesis Designs. Not all of it. We probably do a third of her feed that we grow. That might be optimistic, but I think if you count, the summer, obviously we grow a lot more. Yeah, that was a long drive, Les. Uh, Maybe not by Western standards, but 14 hours round trip by American standards, or by American standards, dear Lord, by Eastern standards. That's a big deal. Uh, but but yeah, how many of your calories can you now look? If you're willing to eat simple, uh, so yeah, you raise your chickens. If you're able to free range them, so boy, we just lost 7 people all at once. Uh, if you're able to free range your chickens at least some of the time, uh, you ever consider making silage? Uh, so we've like played at it in that we feed the corn stalks to the cow. Uh, Guerrilla gardening is interesting to me, Jesse. We'll talk about guerrilla gardening here in a minute. Uh, I've never like saved the corn stalks because I've never had so many. Sharon said getting the seed saving, yeah, very very important was. Uh, we've never had so much like corn stalks that we couldn't just feed them to her all at once, and she would just eat them all right then. So there wasn't anything to save. But she does love corn stalks. Uh, but yeah, if you can free range your chickens at least part of the time, you would be shocked, gentlemen. You would be shocked if you have never had free range. Now, real free range eggs, the free range eggs you buy in the store are not free range eggs. All that means is that there's this little courtyard the chickens can go outside into, but they don't have access. What you want is pasture raised eggs. Uh, so if you ever have eggs that have access to forage outside, and you compare the yolks, the a healthy yolk, the real yolk of a healthy egg is this. It's almost hunter safety orange. It's such a bright orange. It's not yellow. When you see a real egg yolk next to a store-bought egg yolk, you'll get mad uh, because they are so weak and they have so little flavor, and they must be missing all kinds of uh, nutrients and all this stuff. So we try to free range our chickens half the time. Uh, but now that also means you get less eggs because they tend to hide them, or something else eats them. And when you free range the chickens, you're gonna lose chickens a little quicker, but it's worth it because of way less feed and way healthier eggs. Uh, but yeah, you can even if you have to buy your feed, the chicken feed is just a very simple thing. Uh, and it's cheap, al- uh, although it's getting more expensive. But buying chicken feed is cheaper than buying human feed. Your eggs aren't going to be cheaper, but your eggs will be way better. And then, of course, you start working on ways to feed your chickens that doesn't require feed. You free range them, you get them scraps. Uh, there's all these little tricks you can do uh, that can help cut way down on your feed bill. And then just a small garden. And now you're focusing on simple stuff. You're not growing kohlrabi, and I don't even know what the hell kohlrabi is, but we don't do many chickens for meat, Isaac. We may start getting back into it though. We've done it before, but you're going to be growing beans, and sweet potatoes, and white potatoes, and beans. A lot of beans. You're going to grow a lot of beans because they grow easy. They don't take up a lot of space, uh, and they produce a lot. And if you keep them picked, they keep producing. And you would be shocked at the amount of beans you can produce in a small amount of space. Same thing with the sweet potatoes. They need a little bit more space, but they're worth it because they produce so many calories per square foot. Uh, and if you're just growing, your chickens and getting your eggs and growing some beans and growing some sweet potatoes, and maybe you got a few tomato plants and some cucumber plants. Oh, and then winter squash. Winter squash, fantastic crop, winter squash. And if you're just growing those things, it's going to actually be really easy to put back significant pounds of food, several hundred. We've never done well with carrots, Isaac. We have not gotten them to produce well for us. I think it's our soil, and then just the heat. The heat comes out, and you got to have stuff that can deal with it. And beans and sweet potatoes can really deal with the heat. Uh, I'm finding I like growing peas. I am expanding my peas to 2 pounds of seeds. I plan on growing a surplus this year. So here's the thing about the peas, though, Lance Corporal Veteran, is that they're a lot bigger pain in the ass to shell, and you get less out of them for what you. Now they grow really well, uh, and they're good animal feed. They're really good animal feed, as is buckwheat. Uh, but what we found is that we get more out of our shelling time with the beans. Uh, so she cut way back on the peas, but she still grows them. She has a Thomas Jefferson pea or something. I don't know. Allegedly, it was a variety of peas. Read Executive Order 13603, signed by Obama. It gives them the right to remove your food or whatever they need. So this is one of the things that happened in the French Revolution. Uh, these semi-official groups of people would get together, vote themselves some sort of, hey, Major Ken, uh, Yeah, no, peas grow really well, Lance Corporal Veteran. Uh, they would get together and they would vote themselves some sort of, bare bones legitimacy, make themselves some little thing to wear on the lapel that made them look semi-official, and then they would go around to everyone's houses demanding to search the houses looking for hoards, stockpiles of food, and then they would remove it, of course, to for safekeeping. And if you resisted, they'd riot and burn down your house. Uh, they they will always come for your food. The gray man thing does not work. I'm not saying don't do it. It's a level. It's a layer. The gray man thing is a layer. Uh, but ultimately, human nature is what human nature is. Uh, and like when you go buy your chicks at Tractor Supply, hey, North Point Axe is here. North Point Axe just sent me a link. Uh, you should put that in the put the link to that in the description, Adam. You may have to wait for Isaac to approve it, but he'll approve it. A little rum in that Coke. No, I am too tired. I'm exhausted. If I had a little bit of rum in that Coke, this would be the most boring live stream because I'd be just. Y'all all be sitting there waiting to see how long it took me to fall out of the chair. Don't go out of your way, Adam. But if you had the link, that was really cool, and people would enjoy seeing it. Isaac, if you see a link come through from North Point Axe, definitely approve it. It's a really cool little gadget. A really cool little gadget that would go really well on that rifle right there. Anywho, Indiana wants your driver's license when you buy chicken. Yeah, that's what I was about to say, Jim. Thank you. When you go to Tractor Supply here and buy your chicks, you have to give them your phone number because they want to know where them chickens are. And they say it's, well, in case there's an outbreak of disease. Well, who cares if there's an outbreak of disease? If there's an outbreak of disease, you're not going to come treat my chickens. My chickens are just going to die. It's not about outbreaks of disease. It's about knowing who's got food. It's just about being able to track down who's producing food. That's all it is. And so when they get hungry, they can come find some chickens. It's about control. So that's really all I had. When I read that article, I was surprised. And I was surprised that I was surprised. I'm frequently, the older I get, I'm most surprised at the things that I'm surprised at. They wanted you to register your herds in Ohio. Like, why was I not expecting that? That just seems so obvious now that it's happened, Uh, of course, they're going to start trying to villainize homesteaders and home gardeners. Because first off, if you're out, well, not first off, but among other things, everything else, if you're out in the garden in the sunshine, you're not inside getting fat watching Netflix, taking antidepressant. I mean, you might still need some if you need medicine, take medicine now. But people who are active, people who are productive, these people tend to need. Yeah, we're gonna start trying to do that too, Ryan, as much as possible. But if you're outside in the sunshine, getting exercise, being healthy, you're not inside watching Netflix, getting fat and making yourself unhappy. If you're growing your own food, you're less likely to be eating their poison. Uh, so of course, it's something. It does sound very European, actually, doesn't it? It does sound very serfish. We're going to control the serfs. We don't want them eating too much meat. They'll start getting rambunctious. We need them eating gruel and to be cold and hungry. Yeah. So I got a guy. If you want to travel a few hours to Flat, Georgia. Flat, Georgia. Hmm. How flat? They banned cows in Ireland. Isaac, that because I think our buddy Halfcan has cows. He lives in Ireland. I know he's had cows in the last 2 years. I'll I'm behind on shooting him messages anyway. I'll shoot him a message and see if he's still got cows. Now I know they were talking about banning turf cutting. You know, cutting turf is Ireland's version of cutting firewood because they burn it to heat their houses. And again, it was these urban assholes in Dublin who were going to ban turf cutting, and maybe they may have done it. It may not have gone in effect yet, but they may have actually banned the turf cutting. Uh, Southeast Georgia, about an hour south of Augusta. Wow, that's like a 5-hour drive. Uh, I'm about as far opposite from that as you can get in the state. Well, no, because you could go northwest. So if I was over by Rome and all that, I could be farther. I think I heard that too, Isaac. That people got in trouble because they went down to their little. Huh. I just got a message from Adam saying that he got banned from posting when he sent the link. That's weird. Adam, I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. I don't know if there's something about that link YouTube doesn't like. That Yeah, I was kind of watching too, Isaac, and I never saw the link. The link actually never came through, and then it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Uh, I don't know. Les is a moderator too. But then Adam texted me, and his message just showed up on the screen, and he said that he can't post now. Wow, that's crazy. They are on that like white on rice. Holy hell! Uh, the link shows on my screen, but it won't show any more posts. Huh. Crazy. Potatoes should grow pretty decent in the woods and the small clearings. Pretty much just let them go. They don't need much water. Don't plant in straight rows so it isn't obvious from the air. Yeah, that was a crazy YouTube thing, Les. You know, Jesse, we have a real hard time with potatoes here. They have to go in crazy early, and then we have to have them out by June because the heat kills them. They can't handle the heat. In fact, what I've read, I did see that, Isaac. Uh, and what I've read is that once soil temperature gets to 85 degrees, the tubers stop growing anyway. That they just don't like heat. Uh, so we plant them every year, but we don't expect much. Now the reason we like to plant them uh, is that they do go in really early for us. We put them in February. In fact, we have to put them in February if we're going to get anything out of them. The Ruth Stout method is that the hay bale method, Les? I know we tried the wood chips one year, but the wood chips just don't last. Well, yeah, hay bales are so expensive. Wood chips down here will last a season or two, and then they're just gone. and you're back to red clay. The red clay is a wonderful thing as far as holding moisture for the droughts, for the dry periods. But between the heat and the humidity, organic matter just doesn't last here. But what's the price of hay? So I think we're paying $8 a bale right now for cow grade hay. But then, uh, where was I at? Oh, sweet potatoes do really well for us. Sweet potatoes produce great. You got to be careful about getting them out of the ground before it gets wet in the fall, because once it gets wet in the fall, they rot like that. Yeah, Jesse, it sounds like you guys have got a much better environment for them than we do. And there might be a variety out there that would do better. Uh, so far, the thing we found that does the best is the Kennebec. But again, only because you got to plant it in February and get it out by June. And then we can put sweet potato. We could get 2 crops of sweet potatoes easy. Because as soon as there's no. I talked to someone. This has been happening for a while down here. Tomatoes are not growing well. And I've talked to a couple of different people who said there's just something weird going on with tomatoes where they're just not. Oh, I talked to Pete Rambo. That was something else I did yesterday. On my way up to see my daughter, I stopped off to see Pete real quick. We had some business to transact. We got to do it in barter too. Oh, that was interesting. I didn't think about that. Yeah, we bartered. He traded me a safe for an ounce of silver, which was a pretty good deal. He gave me he essentially gave me the safe. Can't put beans in the ground till mid-June. We're harvesting by June. Uh, if we planted them in time, we're harvesting by June. Uh, so we did a little bit of underground economy, a little bit of horse trade, and a little bit of barter, alternative economy. What's that thing? What is about economy? We're all supposed to be developing. We're all supposed to be. I think it's an alternative economy. We're all supposed to be developing the alternative economy. Pete and I participated in it. He traded me a safe. I traded him some silver. So now my silver won't be on my shelf anymore. Now it will be in a safe. Because let's be honest, anyone could just come in here and grab that and run with it. All right, Adam's back. We can't grow potatoes here anymore because of the Japanese potato root beetle. So they put you in some kind of timeout, huh, Adam? Oh, now my chat is. They're letting me repost again. Huh. Crazy. Well, hopefully, maybe they'll get a variety that's resistant to that potato root beetle. God, anything that comes from Japan is just death to our crops out here and our trees and our. We should. Uh, we should ban any kind of living thing from Japan, Asia. Period. I think the chestnut blight came in on. Anyway, guerrilla gardening. Uh, Tomatoes and chicken poop work wonders. I've got a lot. I've got to clean out my chicken coop. It's getting bad in there, and I need to figure out where what I'm gonna put it on. But guerrilla gardening, and I think what would be one of the things that would be great for guerrilla gardening is Jerusalem artichokes. Yeah, I've been told by people that you really don't want to plant them in your yard or in your garden because they just take over everything. You don't end up. Yeah, we put our wood stove ash in the garden. We try to put as much as we can in the garden. But like this chicken poop, I pull out of the coop. Am I gonna spread it on the fallow part? Am I gonna put it in the, the part we're growing this year? Am I just gonna spread it, or am I gonna try to compost it? I think I should probably try to compost it, but I don't know that for sure. But anyway, guerrilla gardening. The people I've talked to who've done them said you really don't really want to put Jerusalem artichokes in your garden or in your yard because they go crazy and they take over everything and they're really hard to control. But it seems to me like they would be a great guerrilla gardening crop. Go plant them just in some grapes do very well in the wild. Well, this is the southeast. We have a wild grape. Uh, we have the only natural wild grape in the world, if I recall. Uh, Muscadines, I'm pretty sure, are the only wild grape, and they grow everywhere. They're ubiquitous. Anyway, where was I? Oh, Jerusalem artichokes. The guerrilla garden some Jerusalem artichokes, and then it would be really, really, really cool if we could find a variety of sweet potatoes that would guerrilla garden. Concord grapes can go wild. That's interesting. Uh, Now I don't know if there's any sweet potatoes that can survive the winter. That's crazy that Kennebec. That's what I was thinking about when I said that earlier. I was remembering that you had told me that. That's crazy that they won't grow in the county where they originated. Asparagus. There is wild asparagus. I don't think it grows that well down here, but I think farther north, there's wild asparagus everywhere, and I think you could guerrilla garden asparagus. I think it does well on right-of-ways and fence, along fences and stuff. But we do need to start researching crops that can. Yeah, I've read about the wild blueberries you guys have. Hey, it's Sharon. Sharon, how you doing, ma'am? Moringa is good, or bamboo. Some does not take over. Can be food, building material, and activated charcoal. I like bamboo. Uh, uh, I guess it's asparagus that grows in ditches in Stark County, Indiana. Uh, but yeah, we should be researching crops that can sort of self-propagate in weird places that most people are going to think are weeds, and that we can go harvest when we want. I've also thought about planting hay in the right of ways. When I was a kid, our ditch in front of our house was full of wild asparagus, and then using my sickle bar mower and just going and cutting the mint. Not yeah, we actually have mint growing wild in our yard. That we planted it and then we let it go, and we just go harvest it as we need it. Uh, and you cut the right of ways with my sickle bar mower, but having seeded them with some decent hay, uh, and getting access to a couple acres of hay that way. Thank you, Sharon. I will look for a foraging book. We actually don't live too far from. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Foxfire series, but this was a series of books that were written starting in the '60s, and they're just a series of interviews. Uh, Jason, good night, brother. Thank you for stopping in. And there were a bunch of interviews with old timers about how they used to live up in the mountains in the old days. And this is the area we live in. I'm not exactly in. This is Rabun County where most of this was done, and we're in the next county over. Uh, don't want to give you, too much. Not that I don't trust you men, but uh, and they're kind of this kind of book, especially if you live in the Appalachians. The Foxfire series is worth looking into. There's a lot of them. So, oh yeah, this is number 12. And then they did really well. It was supposed to be just like this school project, but they got really popular. Of course, they hit at the exact right time back in the '60s when all the hippies and the back to nature movement and all that crunchy granola horse shit. I do not have a Mosin Nagant rifle, Lance Corporal veteran. I can't afford them anymore, as obscene as that is, considering that they used to be $50. Uh, we've got 3 of those Foxfire books, but we've got, this might be the original. Yeah, hog dressing, log cabin building, mountain crafts and foods, planting by the signs, snake lore, hunting tales, faith healing, moonshine, and other affairs of plain living. You can see why they, and other affairs of plain living. That was worth saying twice. You can see why they did well back in the 60s. When was this one? Copyright 1968. I think this is the second edition. But yeah, this is the original. And then there were at least 11 more after this. But we have our knowledge library built up. So we've got the Back to Basics book. This is a classic of homesteading. Tales from a Forager's Kitchen. I haven't actually read this one. I'm assuming Mariah has, and she saw some value in keeping it, or it wouldn't be here. And then we got the Old Ways of Working Wood. The Art of Blacksmithing. Dean. Oh, Dean. God, Dean. I don't know. I saw Dean and I substituted in David Burden. I just associate you and Burden so closely, Dean, that for some reason I saw your name and I was like, Dean? It's like, Marley is dead. The Home Blacksmith, Fireplaces and Wood Stove. I really suggest this book. If you didn't grow up with wood stoves and firewood cutting, this is a book to just have put away in a shelf somewhere. And I've got some up here I just need to get rid of that I don't need anymore. And some I need to give back to the people I borrowed them from. Anywho, so yeah, we have our little knowledge-based library, kind of with an easy grasp. But yeah, I was really amused by all of that. That my little garden is a threat to the oligarchy. That's kind of fun. I didn't even have to get my rifle and go walk anywhere and take no undue risks. I just had to plant a garden and Oh, Paralandra. Where is that? Vegetable Gardener's Bible. I'll have to look that up. Where is my copy of Paralandra? Oh well. Yeah. So I just read. Was that Isaac? Isaac always asked. Yeah, Dean. I was thinking about getting that Lost Ways one too. So I just read Paralandra, which is the second book in the C.S. Lewis space trilogy, which is kind of like uh, it's not a space trilogy. But what had happened was, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were best friends, and they both decided to write. One of them was going to write a science fiction series, and the other one was going to write a fantasy fiction, and they drew from the hat. Allegedly, I don't know how true. This is the folklore around it, and Tolkien drew fantasy, and C.S. Lewis drew science fiction. Uh, and of course Tolkien's fantasy series ends up being The Lord of the Rings, and C.S. Lewis's science fiction. That's true. Anyone who doesn't need the government as a threat ends up being this series called the Space Trilogy, and it starts with the book, uh, a book called Out of the Silent Planet, which is a really short little book. It's an easy read. And then the second book is called Paralandra, and the third book is That Hideous Strength. And I just finished the second book. I've got like 5 pages left to read. Uh, yeah, that's why I don't know that that story is true, Isaac, but it's one you'll hear. Uh, and and I thought Out of the Silent Planet was okay. C.S. Lewis is really big in allegory, and it's just straight allegory. He never, ever, never, ever lets the story get in the way of the allegory. C.S. Lewis is always worried that his allegory is going to be too subtle for you to pick up on, and so he just makes it as simple as possible. Uh, and then, but this Paralandra, I thought was excellent. Now, this was written in 1944, uh, so a very long time ago, long before we knew many of the things we know now about space and whatnot. Uh, and uh, I don't want to spoil it for you, but basically, uh, the book is set on Earth, Mars, and Venus. And Earth is the silent planet. Venus is a very, very old planet that's reaching the end of its life. Or no, Mars is a very, very old planet that's reaching the end of its life. And Venus is a very new planet that's just getting started. And the idea is that, you know, sin entered Earth. Sin never entered Mars, but Mars has come close to completing its created purpose, and Venus is just getting started on fulfilling its created purpose. Uh, and so it's this it's this allegorical look at original sin, uh, and and uh, uh, well, pretty much original sin. And in the second book, the main guy, his name is Ransom. I can't remember his last name, but his first name's Ransom. Uh, and Ransom goes to Mars, which is called Malacandra on Mars, and experiences a world that never had sin, and is almost fulfilled its purpose, and everyone's content, and there's no desire beyond what's needed. And it's an interesting little look at what the contrast would be. But then you go to Paralandra, and Ransom gets sent to Paralandra, to prevent Paralandra from giving in to original sin. And there's two uh, yeah, 80 years ago. And there's two people on this planet. There's an Eve and there's an Adam. And you don't have much to do with Adam. He's gone. But Eve is being tempted. And this other person has been transported to Paralandra, and Satan has taken him over, and he's trying to tempt Eve with Paralandra's version of the forbidden fruit. On Earth, they obviously the command was don't eat of the tree. In Paralandra, the command is don't sleep on the land. They have to sleep on these floating islands. Uh, that link, there is as of now one of those things being shipped to you, bro. Oh dear Lord, Adam, shipped to you, brother. Let me know how it works for you. Adam, you're just too generous. We'll definitely let you know how it works. Far too generous. Uh, yeah, you can't sleep on the land. You got to sleep on these floating islands. And and the Satan character shows up, and he's just trying to convince the Eve figure to sleep on the land because all he's got to do is make her be disobedient to God, and he's gotten sin into another planet, and he's wrecked another planet. And so Ransom is there trying to prevent this from happening. And it's this examination again of how original sin entered the world. It's a critique of second wave feminism in 1944. Oh, Luke is eating his rooster tonight. How is he, Luke? Did you have to stew him, or were you able to roast him, or? Uh, and in 1944, C.S. Lewis had a brilliant, thoughtful critique of feminism, second wave feminism, a long stew, yeah, of second wave feminism 15 years before second wave feminism was a thing. But he also just has this a long series of ruminations on how men should act in the face of this evil, and how we should resist it. And it was just brilliant, and it was just encouraging and uplifting, uh, and I loved it. And there's this one section which I will probably do a video on at one point, where after Ransom's done what he's had to do, and he's saved Eve from this temptation, Satan has left the man who he had inhabited, and possibly it's never quite. But anyway, they're stranded out in the middle of the ocean, and they're both gonna die. Uh, bec- I won't. You have to go read it. Uh, and the character who had been taken over by Satan, who now is sort of come back to consciousness, and he realizes what's going on. He starts whining and crying, and oh no, poor's me. And Ransom gets all pissed at him and has this speech he gives, a little short speech. But at the middle of the speech was, quit your whining, say a child's prayer if you can't say a man's prayer, but but pray and buck up. And it was very, very motivating. I don't know where my copy is. It should be around here somewhere, because I do have to finish the last few pages. Uh, and I really, really liked it. It's an easy read. It's not real thick. There's no lightsaber fights. When it talks about it being science fiction, it's really speaking of other planets. NASA is supporting claims that Saturn's moon Titan has more oil and natural gas than Earth. Wow. Uh, I wonder how it would have oil. That would mean it would had to have had organic material at some point. That seems like that's a big deal. Sounds like these would be a good movie trilogy if someone who respected the source material made it. I really want to read it. You should definitely read it, Isaac. Like I said, there's no lightsabers. There is a spaceship, but there are no like space guns. They do take a rifle to Malacandra, and they do shoot an alien, uh, but it's not science fiction really in the way you think of science fiction. It's it's a spiritual allegory set in space, but so far a brilliant book. I haven't read the that hideous strength yet. I'm told it's very different than the other two. The whole story comes back to Earth, and it sounds like the apocalypse happens. But like I said, I haven't read it yet, so I will read it and I will update you when I do. All right, man. I think I have run out of steam. I am still exhausted from that trip yesterday. Any specifics of what the rifle was? It was a bolt action. I remember that, and I would almost be willing to bet you, considering that C.S. Lewis served in World War One, that it would have to have been Lee Enfield in 303 British. Just a guess, but I don't think it's a bad guess. So appreciate y'all coming out tonight. I know I spring these on you, and I don't do them at a set time. Adam, I look forward to seeing this thing and hooking it up and seeing what it does. We'll definitely put some videos out about that and see if YouTube censors them or not. And thank you, Sharon. We appreciate you, ma'am. Uh, and like you said, shalom and everyone. Have a good evening. And be a revolutionary. Strike a blow against the man. Resist the tyranny. Plant a garden. It's that. So, ooh, thank you, Jesse. It's that simple. Planting a garden is an act of rebellion that scares them. How crazy is that? Grow some food, man. We appreciate you. Thank you.